We start in Washington, where plans are in the works for the wealthy to open up their wallets a little wider when it comes to paying taxes. And the rich may no longer enjoy special benefits when it comes to their estates and investments. A proposed increase in taxes will help fund social programs that President Biden is expected to announce later this week. So, what does this all mean for the uber rich as well as the average person? Here to discuss is Bloomberg's Laura Davison. Laura, thank you for joining us. Can you start us off with an overview of this plan and the highlights we can expect?
Yeah, so this is going to be basically a follow-up plan to his jobs plan from a month ago. This is going to be a more than $1 trillion plan, pumping money into things like childcare, education, paid leave. And these will all be funded with tax increases on the wealthy. So about $1 trillion in spending offset by about $1 trillion in tax increases. So for that, looking at changes to things like capital gains, almost doubling the rate there, higher income tax rates, looking at getting rid of some of the deductions that the wealthier are able to use to lower their tax bills. This would be a huge overhaul of the tax code, basically undoing everything that President Trump did in 2017 and then doing some more on top of that.
And one phrase that sticks out to me is this idea of the step up in basis. What does that mean for people who aren't familiar, and why is it significant here?
Yes, this is an arcane tax topic that suddenly everybody is starting to learn. And basically, the idea was that you used to, or currently under the current tax code, if you have an asset, whether it be a stock or a house or a small business that you want to pass on to a child, it gains value throughout your life, and you pass it on when you die. All of the gain, all of the appreciation goes untaxed at death. And so whenever the person inherits it, they only pay taxes when they sell the asset later on the portion of the appreciation from when they held the asset. So it means that there's basically a big tax break on inheritances. Biden would basically do away with that. So if an asset gained a lot of value when that person dies, that the capital gains on that would be taxed, and then it could go on to the other person. But it would be a very big sea change in how that works.
And these big capital gains taxes kick in at $1 million earned. What does that mean for both big financial players and for the average everyday person who might just be trading with Robinhood, for example?
Yeah, so for your average person, you're probably not going to hit that $1 million mark. This is for all income, whether that be capital gains, stock trading income, as well as your wage, your salary. But looking at the data, only about less than 0.5%, 0.03% of taxpayers will fall into this bucket of making more than $1 million a year. But for those who do, it is also, it's basically a doubling of what the capital gains tax has been. It's around 20% now. It'd be almost 40% under the Biden proposal. So wealth advisors are really gearing up and trying to figure out, what do they do for clients, while the rate is still lower? Do people sell a bunch of stuff and then maybe buy it back? There's a lot of gamesmanship happening right now, and really a tight window. And we don't know exactly how this is all going to shake out. So there's a lot of confusion and sort of angst among wealthy investors right now to figure out how to find some workarounds to lessen their tax bills.
So that's the capital gains front, but there's also an individual tax rate change for the $400,000 income threshold. What do we know at this time about whether that applies to an individual or a couple? Because if you live in New York City, for example, of course, $400,000 is a lot of money, but that's very different for, a couple here versus an individual in a smaller metropolis in America, for example.
This is one issue that the White House has been very cagey on disclosing details. They've been asked about this directly, is it $400,000 for individuals and more for a couple, for example? And they basically respond that $400,000 level applies to families. So that's one key area that I'll be watching and everyone will be watching for, in this plan that comes out tomorrow about, will that basically 40% tax rate kick in, but $400,000 no matter the household size, or will there be some adjustment there? That's going to be certainly one area of fighting, particularly for Democrats who represent these higher cost of living states like New York, New Jersey. $400,000, as you noted, means a lot, is a lot different in New York City and Manhattan than it is in Des Moines, Iowa.
So just stepping back for a second in our last minute together here, Laura, how could these changes potentially impact Biden's popularity during his first term as president?
Well, this is something that's been interesting and been changing recently. So Democrats are betting that kind of the tried and true conventional wisdom on tax increases being unpopular will not hold. We started to see this with Trump's tax cut a couple of years ago. It was a tax cut, but it really wasn't popular. People didn't like it. And so they're saying, look, people think that the wealthy and corporations should pay more, and polling data bears that out. This plan would really only affect, kind of that top 1% of taxpayers, across the board with all the tax increases he's looking at. They're betting that, look, if people see that they're getting benefits, more social programs, infrastructure spending, that they will be in favor of, taxing corporations and taxing the wealthy individuals. But, we'll see how that shakes out.
Laura Davison, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've had a very busy day covering all things Biden and taxes. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching Bloomberg Quick Take Now. Subscribe to our channel to see the biggest stories the moment they happen from around the world. And tune in to our 24/7 live stream for global news coverage, documentaries, interviews, deep dives, and shows on the stories that you care most about.